Mr. Clerk, we are reporting out a closed session. We have 3 items. Mr. Clerk, just to refresh our, we're going to do 2 items together.
That's correct. Mr.
Okay,
Mayor.
we're going to do 4.1 and 4.2 together, and then 4.3 separate. So first 2 items.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Council reporting out of closed session. The first 2 items tonight are to receive both reports and that confidential direction to staff be confirmed.
Someone like to move that? Councillor Gilliland, thank you. Councillor Weese, any comments or questions on that one? Recorded vote.
Recorded vote has been requested for council reporting out of closed session this evening for the first 2 items of council reporting out of closed session. Mayor Mrakas, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Gallo?
Yes.
Councillor Weese? Councillor Weese votes yes. Councillor Gilliland? Sorry, you're still on mute.
Apologies. Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Gardner? Councillor Gardner votes yes. Councillor Kim? Councillor Kim votes yes. And Councillor Thompson? Councillor Thompson votes yes. The motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Next item, 4.3.
The second and final item of council reporting out of closed session is to receive the report and that confidential direction to staff be confirmed.
You can get someone to move that. Councillor Thompson. Thank you. Councillor Gardner, second. Oh, Councillor Kim, thank you. Comments, questions? Recorded vote.
Recorded vote has been requested for the second item of council reporting out of closed session. Councillor Gardner, how do you vote? Councillor Gardner votes yes. Councillor Thompson? Councillor Thompson votes yes. Mayor Mrakas?
Yes.
Councillor Gallo?
Yes.
Councillor Weese? Councillor Weese votes yes. Councillor Kim? Councillor Kim votes yes. And Councillor Gilliland?
Yes.
Thank you. The motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Confirming bylaw. Someone like to know that. Councillor Thompson. Seconder. Somebody. Councillor Kim. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Motion to adjourn. Councillor Weese, Councillor Gardner, all those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Mr. Clerk, time is 7:03. I'm calling this council meeting to order. The town of Aurora acknowledges that the Anishinaabe lands on which we live and work are the traditional and treaty territory of the Chippewas of Georgina Island, as well as many other nations whose presence here continues to this day. As the closest First Nation community to Aurora, we recognize the special relationship the Chippewas have with the lands and waters of this territory. They are the water protectors and environmental stewards of these lands, and as a municipality, we join them in these responsibilities. We further acknowledge that Aurora is part of the treaty lands of the Mississaugas and Chippewas recognized through Treaty Number 13, as well as the Williams Treaties of 1923. Shared understanding of the rich cultural heritage that has existed for centuries and how our collective past brought us to where we are today will help us walk together into a better future. Council, can I get a motion to approve the agenda with the added items? Councillor Thompson, Councillor Weese. Any comments or questions? Okay, call the vote. That carries. Any declarations of pecuniary interest? Seeing none. Hey, 2 community presentations. First up, 5.1, Julie Stephenson, Youth and Community Development Coordinator regarding the John West Memorial Leaders of Tomorrow Scholarship Award, presentation of the 2023 recipients. Julie, welcome. Floor is yours.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Julie Stephenson, Youth and Community Development Coordinator with the town of Aurora. I'm pleased to be here tonight to recognize and celebrate 2 incredible youth from our community. The John West Memorial Leaders of Tomorrow Scholarship Award honors the achievements of senior students who attended high school in Aurora and are now moving on to post-secondary education. Each year, up to 2 scholarships are presented to students who are entering their first year as full-time students at either university or college. This year's first winner is Rizwan Kazi, who recently graduated from Aurora High School, where he maintained a high academic average while playing on the varsity basketball team. During that time, while balancing his studies and athletic pursuits, Rizwan volunteered for over 800 hours of community service. In the fall, Rizwan will be attending Toronto Metropolitan University to begin his studies in civil engineering. Rizwan's contributions have made a distinct and positive impact in the Aurora community through numerous volunteering initiatives with local elementary schools, Play Forever, the Aurora Public Library, Canada Beyond the Blue, and the Newmarket Islamic Center. Most notably, Rizwan led the creation of a STEM-based peer tutoring program with Play Forever and York Region District School Board. Of his numerous community service hours, approximately 200 hours have been specifically dedicated to providing free tutoring to families facing financial barriers. His community-minded leadership has been inspirational to his peers, providing access to educational supports and encouragement. Rizwan has a passion for helping others and giving back to the community, especially those that are new to our communities or facing barriers. His dedication to and engagement with local communities and the organizations that serve them clearly demonstrate his commitment to others. This year's second winner is Antia Pita Dragos, who recently graduated from St. Maximilian Colby Catholic High School, where she maintained honor roll and a place on the principal's list for all 4 years of academic study. In the fall, Antia will be attending Western University to begin her studies in health sciences with a National Scholarship Award and an invitation to join the Scholars Elective Program. Antia is a positive presence in our community, taking on various leadership positions on her student council, mental health council, and most notably as a 2-year student trustee for York Catholic District School Board. Contributing almost 200 hours of community service, Antia has made an impact on organizations such as Sending Sunshine, the Aurora Public Library, Plan International Canada, and Town of Aurora programs. Notably, during her tenure as student trustee, Antia was part of an initiative to provide free menstrual products to all students in York Region Catholic elementary and secondary schools. Antia has demonstrated outstanding leadership and compassion, acting as a role model for her peers and leading change in her school community. Her dedication to giving back and positively impacting others in our community and her extensive contributions have made Aurora a better place for residents to enjoy. Rizwan and Antia, the Town of Aurora, Mayor and Council are incredibly proud of your accomplishments and the impact you have made in our community. We are honored to present you both with the 2023 John West Memorial Leaders of Tomorrow Scholarship Award. Congratulations. We would now like to invite you both down to receive your certificates and take a photo with Mayor Mrakas, members of council, and Robin McDougall, Director of Community Service.
Good, Julie? Okay, council, can I get a motion to receive the presentation? Councillor Weese, Councillor Gardner, any comments? Councillor Weese?
Yeah, I just want to congratulate both the recipients. It's an incredible thing to see all the work that you've done in the community. Communities like ours thrive on young people donating their time and volunteering in a lot of meaningful ways. So I want to thank them for all the work that they've done in the community over the last year, and in some cases 4 years. So thanks very much for coming tonight, and thanks for the selection.
Councillor Gilliland?
Thank you. I echo the comments of Councillor Weese. Congratulations to both of you on this very important award. I really hope that staff could give us some sound, anybody that's watching, so we could hear the hands clapping and the congratulations. It was all muted, but I can feel and sense the emotion, and I just say congratulations once again. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Gardner?
Thank you. This is a proud moment that I'm very glad to share with you. And I wish you lots of success in whatever you decide to do in the future.
Any other comments? Councillor Kim?
Thank you. I also want to congratulate you both. You guys are an excellent example of today's youth being tomorrow's leaders. And I can't say how much we're all very proud of both of you. And your parents should be very proud. I'm sure they are.
Thank you, Councillor Kim. Anyone else? All right. Thank you very much. Congratulations to both of you. I think, as was mentioned right across the board, is that not only should you guys be proud, not only your family should be extremely proud, but we're extremely proud for both of you. All the work that you guys done, helping others in your community, it's tremendous, and it speaks volumes about our youth and our community, not only now, but for the future. And I think that all of us are going to be excited to watch you represent Aurora, not only at your universities, but as you continue through not only your education, but in your futures. And we know you're going to do Aurora proud. So congratulations and all the best. Council, I'll call a vote. Councillor Weese is a yes. That carries. Thank you very much. You're more than welcome to stay and watch the rest of the meeting. Yeah, or go celebrate, whichever way sounds better. So council, next we have 5.2, Gregory Peri, Accessibility Advisor regarding AccessNow assessment update. Gregory, welcome. Floor is yours.
Thank you. All right. Well, hello, Mayor, Council, staff, and residents. I'm Gregory Peri, the Accessibility Advisor with the Town of Aurora. For those who can't see me, I'm a male of European descent, brown hair, brown eyes, and goatee. I'm wearing glasses, a black shirt, and a jacket. Today, I'm here to present a summary of our most recent accessibility assessment of 8 of our facilities, which include our 3 recreation facilities, Town Hall, Senior Center, Joint Operations Center, Petch House, and the Lind Realty Team Sports Dome. As a progressive community, the Town of Aurora has made a commitment to enhancing accessibility in our town facilities. To ensure the highest standards of accessibility, we are now partners with AccessNow, a renowned international leader in advancing access for persons with disabilities. So AccessNow is a mobile platform that allows anyone, regardless of their ability, to search for, rate, and discover information about the accessibility of places and experiences around their town or city. Their mission is to establish a go-to resource for accessibility information. AccessNow has built a connected platform to empower people to discover a world of accessible opportunities to make better decisions and to remove barriers. They are now in over 100 different countries. Take each person's experience navigating the business by use of crowdsourcing to share information to other customers, residents, and individuals. So AccessNow is available online and for download in the App Store as well as Google Play. On the screen here, you can see the web platform, and this is what the map would look like. On the top left is where you can enter the location that you'd like to attend. From here, we'll do a search and the search results all appear. As you can see, the blue check mark to the right of Aurora Town Hall means that we are verified through the team. The green solid thumbs up on the left shows that this is an accessible facility. Once you click on the image, you'll be directed to the specific business page. From there, you'll see all the business information, accessibility information, images, reviews from other users of our facility, as well as a map of the location. As we zoom in, we take a closer look at all the business information here, along with all the accessible features that are listed there below. As we look closer, the pictures of the assessment are all listed there, as well as a description of the facility. And moving over to our map, you'll see that it's labeled where we are searching, so Aurora Town Hall. But the other thing is it shows all the other accessible businesses around the area. In this case, the Senior Center and the Pet House. So our process on May 1st and May 8th, AccessNow came to evaluate 4 buildings on each day. The team completed a thorough assessment of every area of each building. On the screen, on the first picture, you see Rick and Aaron outside the Stronach Aurora Recreation Complex as we begin our tour. The second picture in the middle is Rick and Aaron again, trying to use their sink here at Town Hall. The third picture is just an image of one of our accessible washroom stalls where showcasing the toilet dispenser and the grab bars in just one of our many facilities. So some benefits. By becoming verified business on AccessNow, the town has gained increased visibility amongst individuals with disabilities who are actively seeking accessible places. The platform has a large user base of individuals looking for that accessible information, allowing us to reach a larger audience. As mentioned earlier, the platform provides a detailed breakdown of accessibility features for each facility. The information helps individuals with disabilities to plan their visits, make informed decisions about where to go based on their specific needs. Being verified demonstrates the town's commitment to inclusivity and accessibility. It showcases our dedication to creating an environment that is welcoming and accommodating to all members of the community, including individuals with disabilities, which will make all people proud to call Aurora home. Partnering with AccessNow can enhance the town's reputation as an inclusive and accessible business. This can attract a broader customer base, including individuals with disabilities, their families, and friends who prioritize accessibility when choosing where to spend their time and money. AccessNow also serves as a hub for individuals with disabilities to share their experience and contribute to the accessibility community. We now have an opportunity to engage with this community, receive feedback, and continuously improve our accessibility offerings based on their input. And finally, AccessNow collaborates with various organizations, governments, and institutions to promote accessibility and inclusivity. We are now open to have opportunities to participate in joint initiatives, campaigns, and events, all aimed at improving accessibility in our community. So now we'll break down some of the results. Here's a list of the ratings that AccessNow provided us. As you see on these charts, there's a percentage of accessibility for each. Green means that that percentage is fully accessible. Yellow or orange is partially accessible, and red is not accessible. Although in most cases, an accessible score does not necessarily mean we have nothing to improve upon, but rather the majority of the space is accessible with some work to do. So again, although we have an overwhelming positive review of accessible features, there are some areas we can do better, some areas we need to still work on, and other areas that we need to bring up to standard. As with all our arenas in the first picture, none of our change rooms are accessible. Automatic door openers, accessible showers, and washrooms will definitely improve this space. There's also a lot of inconsistencies in our accessible washroom stalls. In most cases, grab bars need to be relocated, handles installed on the insides of the doors, and more space requirements to allow appropriate transitions. And finally, a further consideration for clutter. In almost every building we reviewed, at least one accessibility feature was blocked by something. And in the case of the third photo, it was the hand sanitizer stand blocking the door open. So our next steps. So now that our 8 facilities are verified, we will be working with the respective town staff to work on the barrier removals. In 2024, there will be a request coming forward to complete the remaining town facilities, as well as all our parks and all our trails. Overall, being verified on AccessNow platform aligns with the town's vision with a valuable resource that promotes inclusivity, accessibility, and positive social impact. It allows us to connect with individuals with disabilities, showcase our commitment to accessibility, and contribute to creating a more inclusive society. The other great thing about this process, we are now influencing other municipalities, including the region, to do the same assessment for their residents and members. Thank you.
Thank you, Gregory. Council, can I first get a motion to receive the presentation? Councillor Thompson, Councillor Weese, any comments or questions? Councillor Weese.
Yeah, thanks, Ray. I appreciate this. It's very interesting. Just a couple of questions. How do people connect with you, people with disabilities, to connect with this? How do they know about this so they can visit those facilities that are appropriate for them?
So through you,
Sorry.
Mr. Mayor, we've sent out a couple media releases now, which has been picked up by local media as well. And that is actually how other municipalities have also found us. We will be looking to further educate through the Accessibility Advisory Committee and their members. And then in the future, also look at doing some further social media posts as well to get the word out.
Thank you. And one more through you, Mayor Mrakas. You have in here that you're going to talk about parks and trails. Does the park assessment include playgrounds? Okay.
Yep.
It includes all playgrounds. I actually have a meeting with staff on Friday to determine the scope of the project, how much of our multiple acres of land through all our parks and trails we're going to do. And it's actually a very similar platform. And so it will lay out the accessibility from green, yellow to red being non-accessible. So users of the space can actually see how far on the path, how far through the park they can actually travel before they can't go any further.
Right. Thank you. And one last question through you, Mayor Mrakas. What's the runway for this? How long is this going to take, do you anticipate, over the next little while? What do you think it is? Gregory?
So through Mr. Mayor, it's probably at first conversation with AccessNow, they figure about a month of being here. So we're looking at probably starting, if we get approval, May, and probably go right through till, well, probably late October. Obviously, they're not going to be here every single day, but as much as they can, they'll come through. It also depends on our length of our trails and the amount of parks, how much they can do via Google Maps images. And that way they don't actually have to attend the park, and how much will actually need to be actually walked through.
Council.
Great, thanks. I thought it would be much longer and bigger a job to do that. So I'm happy to hear that. Thanks very much.
You, Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. I think it's a great initiative. My question was similar to Councillor Weese, just that you had mentioned the next steps was to complete the remaining parks and trails. I mean, that's a daunting task to do in 1 year. And so you already addressed that with regards to having conversations with staff, figuring out the scope. And so I appreciate the response and look forward to continuing to see the results of the work with both AccessNow and staff.
Thank you, Councillor Gilliland.
Thank you very much. Very similar in respect to the parks and trails, but I do want to say thank you very much for the work you brought forward today. I know that we've been trying to do this assessment for a long time, and that COVID really put a lot of pause on it. So I do appreciate you've come so far. In respect to the parks in specific, I have had some feedback from this community where they do wish to have a call to action to more accessibility in our parks. And I know we've had some offline conversations, and some of the remarks back offline were that we are going to be looking at this in the future for 2024. But my question to you through Mr. Mayor to Mr. Peri is the engagement. Where are you getting this engagement from? Because some of the main concerns I've heard is people in this community want to be able to give their feedback. I know we have the accessibility committee, which is fantastic, but I think we need to do better with some sort of an engaged platform to allow people within this community to also chime in and give their opinion on things and where we're lacking. What are your plans there?
Gregory?
So through you, Mr. Mayor. So we actually have multiple avenues that they can provide feedback on our website. There's a feedback form for accessibility, which does reach all walks of our services and our programs and that sort of thing, is one option. Another option, again, through this platform, they would be able to comment directly right on the park. Being verified, I am an administrator right on their platform. So I would get notification on anyone who does provide that feedback. And then it would be up to me to either share it with respective staff or comment on it as required. Third, I mean, they can always reach out to me directly. And we always have the Accessibility Advisory Committee, like you mentioned, where we can bring those up and have those conversations. In terms of engagement, again, as we mentioned earlier, through social media posts to get the word out that this is here. As we progress to do our parks and trails, it too has been a topic of conversation at our committees as well as through me. And then again, working with our parks department and to see what we can do moving forward.
Councillor?
Thank you. I guess just a follow-up to that, I guess what I'm looking for is like a dedicated campaign towards parks in general, because that seems to be the general consensus of some of the emails that I've been getting from the people in the community. And if there was some sort of, we are going to be collecting some information and feedback specifically on parks and what we, put some questions around and what we're lacking, what you would need, what you would like, and then take that information and then put a plan together of how we can make our parks better. From what I'm hearing, it sounds very helter-skelter, where we're having kind of feedback on an ad hoc basis, and then we apply that where we feel it's necessary. Are there any plans to do some sort of campaign specific to parks? I feel like this is something that the community is asking for.
Gregory?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, we can definitely look to work with the Parks Department. I know that there has been some talks about going out to our parks and seeing it for ourselves. Just experiencing the process through AccessNow, they do bring experienced mappers, people with disabilities of different kinds to utilize the space. The difference with AccessNow versus other platforms is it's more functional in nature. So we would be actually traveling all our parks and traveling our trails and progressing through that space with them. From there, we will definitely look to invite our community members once we do that process, as well as staff. Just because I know from my experience, it was absolutely an eye-opening experience and definitely beneficial to learn what our residents' needs are and different than a bare minimum standard or being a building code standard or whatever the case is. So we can definitely look to do that. And like I said, we can work with staff to put out a communication plan and go from there to collect that feedback.
Councillor?
Thank you. I would really appreciate that. I can't recall who the councillor is on the accessibility committee. But however, we know perhaps even that committee would want to be part of that engagement of the on-site assessment as well. And some sort of engagement piece to be open to the community for a certain period of time to gain their feedback as you're doing this assessment. I think it'd be very beneficial. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Gardner?
Hi, I don't think we've we've met, so I'm glad to meet you. And thank you for all the information you've just given. I was curious about how you introduced yourself, the description of who you are and what you're wearing. So is that something that you would normally do? Is that something you suggest for people to do in meetings?
Gregory?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, it's absolutely something that you can do. It's really up to you if you wish to. Personally, in a space like this, like I said, me being new to the environment, and for those individuals that do have a visual disability, it is something that I have incorporated into my trainings when I'm on screen. So I'll leave that at that, but it would really be up to you if that's
Councillor?
Thank you. I liked it.
Any other comments, questions? Gregory, thank you for coming this evening. I did want to recognize Max Lemoyne, who's here. He's one of our citizen members of the Accessibility Advisory Committee. Welcome, Max. Good to see you. Gregory, you know what? Excellent. As I think, as everyone mentioned, this is important work, and we shouldn't just stop at the fact that being at the bare minimum or just the requirement. We need to do more and we need to do better, and we're always doing that. And I like the fact that you brought up and mentioned about the fact that Aurora is essentially leading the way right now in having York Region and other municipalities step up and now starting to follow what we're moving forward with in the discussions that we're having and looking at improving our community so that everyone can enjoy the community equally. So thank you very much. It's important work, and I'm looking forward to continuing those discussions and improving not only our playgrounds, but our entire community. So thank you. Council, I'll call the vote. That carries. So we'll move to delegations. First one, 6.1, Jason Scott, York North Basketball Association regarding motion 10.1. Jason, welcome. You have 5 minutes and the floor is yours.
Mr. Mayor, council people and town staff. I'll be quick as I was told I do have only 20 minutes. So no. My name is Jason Scott and I'm here on behalf of the YNBA, York North Basketball Association, to offer our full support to the motion to study the feasibility of a court sports air dome in Aurora. In speaking with other sports leaders, I feel confident speaking on behalf of volleyball, pickleball, and scouting and guide world, and access and other groups who all struggle to access both quality and a condensed quantity of sport facilities that have courts in them. For YNBA basketball, we are in absolute need of a multi-court, ideally 4+ court facility to properly serve Aurora residents with court sports programming such as camps, coaches, training clinics, house league practices and games, and rep training and rep games. Maybe most enticing for our town businesses would be our ability to increase tourism, being the hosting of large provincial tournaments, including provincials. The past 3 times we ran provincials, we had to use up to 13 sites all over York Region. This triggered the Ontario Basketball Association to stop using YNBA as a provincial host due to the inconvenience that the lack of condensed gym space caused the traveling tournament families. I believe the truth is that hiring an outside group to do this study would be a waste of taxpayer dollars that could go into the facility itself. We all know it's needed. It's not a matter of if, but how, of course, when you're talking about where we go and then being creative in how to pay for it. Right? I'm positive that the town staff in cooperation with the user groups could easily craft a creative plan and the required and appropriate facility specs that use outside the box thinking for its funding. YNBA has been involved in this process with municipalities a few times in the past, and we'll be happy to offer our assistance again when called upon. I'm grateful for your time today and truly hope we can finally get this long awaited and much needed project on the go. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. Council, can I get a motion to receive and refer to 10.1? Councillor Thompson, Councillor Gardner, any comments, questions for the delegate? Councillor Weese?
Jason, my thanks for coming out. You're one of those people who have always been leading and not following. And I really appreciate the comments that you've made here tonight. So, but through you, Mayor Mrakas, to the delegate, if I may, what kind of fear do you have if you don't get some kinds of relief and have additional facilities? What's the consequences perhaps to the YNBA? Can you give us a bit of information about that?
Jason?
To you, Mr. Mayor. Really, the lack of ability to grow to the capacity we could grow and to serve the number of different kinds of groups that we would like to serve within the community here, whether it be women's leagues or whether it be leagues that are for those that are disabled. We have worked with local groups to do that before, but I've had a hard time finding facilities to make those kinds of things happen as well. But really, the big thing is those large tournaments where we can bring in a lot of dollars, and they talk about huge dollar amounts. The OBA had to do a study in order to be able to provide that to places that were hosting, and they say it brings in about, just for the weekend, about $5 million to the local town, which is, you know, it's decent for a weekend. So the number of times we can do that can be quite a few, and lots of places host 2 or 3 within a year. We know how to do it. We have the personnel that can get it done, and it's just a matter of having the sites to make it happen.
Councillor?
Thank you. That's enough for me.
Thank you. Councillor Gilliland?
Thank you very much. I really do appreciate your comments. I feel and sense your pain with the 13 locations. I know many years ago, I'm going to say, at least over 10 years ago, I, had done some work at high level sports within Aurora Newmarket, and that was one of the big bones of contention with the OBA, that we didn't have enough facilities in close proximity, but also we didn't have hotels. And now we have the hotels. So this is just one next step to help increase our economic development, our sports tourism strategy. And you have certainly verified that there's the need and the want and the desire to be able to host and have these facilities. And I do appreciate you coming forward with your experience and knowledge in the growth in this area. And I really did like how you touched on the accessible part, because I do know some organizations are hosting tournaments for a weekend for people with different abilities, and it's a completely different sector as sometimes people forget about. So I do appreciate your insight and your comments.
You? Any other comments, questions? So now, Jason, thank you very much for coming this evening. Appreciate it. I'm sure we're going to have a good, healthy discussion later on. I just wanted to mention one thing. As I remember when the OBA had the under 18 championships, and the championship game was being held, or the big games were being held in Newmarket, and we had a conversation. I said, we need to get this in Aurora. And so I'm looking forward to that day when we do have that championship here. So I look forward to all of us working together on that. So thank you for coming out this evening. Call the vote. That carries. Next delegation is from Bruce Stafford, Storm Volleyball. It is a written delegation in regarding motion 10.1. Could I get a motion to receive and refer? Councillor Weese, Councillor Gardner. Is there any question? I guess there's no one to answer the question, so I'll call the vote. Nope. That carries. Next, consent agenda. Could I get a motion for all items in the consent agenda? Councillor Kim, Councillor Thompson, any comments or questions on any of those items in consent agenda? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. That carries. All right, standing committee reports. This is all 8s. Any items want to be pulled? Councillor Gilliland.
Thank you. I would like to pull item 8.1.5
Okay,
and item 8.1.7.
thank you. Councillor Thompson.
I'd like to pull 8.1.6 for vote only.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Seeing none. Councillor Gilliland, did you have another one or did you? Okay, thank you. Okay, could I get a motion to approve all items in standing committee reports minus 8.1.5, 8.1.6, and 8.1.7? Councillor Thompson, Councillor Weese. Call the vote. That carries. Okay, so we'll start with 8.1.5. Councillor Gilliland, you pulled this one.
Yes,
Do you want to move the recommendation?
sure.
Okay, seconder. Oh. Which recommend, I got the clerk saying you want the one that's the recommendation coming out of GC or the original recommendation?
It doesn't make a difference because I want to make an amendment. So if we can just put it on the floor as it was, and then
The
I
way it
can.
was out of the rec, okay, so we'll put it as the recommendation out of GC and then we'll go from there. Okay,
Perfect. Thank you.
who's seconding? Councillor Thompson, thank you. Councillor Gilliland, go ahead.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to be able to pull this. I know I wasn't here last week, but I did hear some of the healthy discussion and read through the report. And I do share some of the same concerns as was mentioned about the operating budget and the business plan and so forth. And I was at the FAC as well, so I do recollect some of that conversation where we wanted to have that extra information, and I certainly do want to have that extra information. And I was kind of disappointed we didn't see that breakdown. And as much as I don't necessarily like the way the budget numbers were presented, I still want to see some movement going forward. As much as the will of council to move this forward as such, at the same time, I want to see this as successful as possible. And despite the fact I know that there were some removed clauses and there's some separate votes and such, what I would like to see is I want to see some accountability on this business plan and the agreements. I know that the Aurora Cultural Center must be chomping at the bit by now as to, where are we going with this? It's been 3 years. I heard this around the council table quite a bit on the outside looking in, even with the Cultural Center. Like, I think they want to get going, and we want to see what that agreement looks like. And council wants to make sure that, we have these things in place so we can have an outlook. So I would be comfortable moving forward by making an amendment to that clause 2 with the language of, I know it says council review and approval. It just kind of gives too much of an insinuation that, I don't feel comfortable with, and I felt others didn't, and to say consideration of approval. I do understand this is a proposed budget, and, what this essentially means is that, when we do go to budget, we still have to approve what's being presented. But what's lacking is that operating budget and that plan and those agreements. So what I would like to do, if my colleagues agree, is I would like to add a 4th clause to that. Based on number 2, I'd be willing to considering approval to add that the Aurora Town Square operating plan be brought before council prior to the budget of 2024 deliberations, including the Aurora Cultural Center's programming and staffing plan. And I think that if we get this information prior, then it's going to really help us make those decisions at budget time. mark my words, I know that at budget, if we're not happy with what we see at budget, we can definitely say no and scale back and pause. But until we have that, you know, I don't think there's really, I mean, from what I'm hearing around the council table, much, I don't want to say hope, but I don't think there's much comfort in moving forward without some of that in concrete writing. So the two things I'm proposing, if my council members agree, and it's very, it feels so far removed when I'm on Zoom, is in the second clause to revise that one line to saying for approval to considerations for approval. I think that's key. And also on the fourth clause to say that the Aurora Town Square operating plan be brought before council prior to budget 2024 deliberations, including the Aurora Cultural Center's programming and staffing plan. I'm going to leave it at that.
So Councillor, you want an amendment to bring back the second clause with a wording change and an additional clause that was not there to the end. That's and I'll get that on the screen, but that's what you're proposing, correct?
That is what I'm proposing.
Okay,
and,
so
you know, I hope at least someone will give me an opportunity to have the discussion around the council table, and hopefully it's something we can do.
Absolutely. Someone want to second that amendment? Councillor Weese, thank you. We'll get it up on the screen in a sec. So that's just the original. Is there any speakers to the amendment? Well, I can. There we go. So the first clause that's there is the original one. That was the second one with the wording change. So it's that the recommended operating plan financial strategy for Town Square be included in the proposed 2024 budget for council's consideration and approval. And the other clause that's being added is that the Aurora Town Square operating plan be brought before council prior to budget 2024 deliberations, including the Aurora Cultural Center's programming and staffing plan. Okay. Councillor Gilliland, that's what you wanted, right?
Yeah, I just I didn't know if it made a difference, but I was really on the second clause, like the first amendment would be 2024 budget for council's review and consideration for approval. And yeah, review. They'll add in the word review. That just got missed out. Sorry. It will be exactly as it was written with the addition of consideration of approval. Exactly. I just want the context of that to say that we're considering that as opposed to saying and approval. I just prefer to see that language in there. For me, I wouldn't approve the second amendment without everybody
questions to the amendment. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. Just really, I guess I'll direct it to either Mr. Nadarosny or Ms. Wainwright Van Kessel. Budget starts in November. So if this is to be prior to that, all that information needs to be brought in October. Any concerns or questions with regards to that from a staff perspective?
Michelle.
Mr. Mayor, no, we're comfortable. We can bring that information forward.
Great. That's it.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councillor Gallo.
Thank you. I can't see it on the screen, but I don't know if it could be put up again. That first clause, I'm still unclear about the last part of it.
So I'll get it back up on the screen for you, Councillor Gallo. So let me see how I can read it for you. If I got it here. So that the recommended operating plan financial strategy for Town Square be included in the proposed 2024 budget for council's review and consideration of approval. Previously, all it said was review and approval. So Councillor Gilliland's asked for it to say and consideration of approval.
Okay.
Can you see it?
Okay, it's really small, but
okay, can we put it back up? Oh, it's up. Oh.
And the second clause.
The second clause is, or I'll read it for you too. The second clause is that the Aurora Town Square operating plan be brought before council prior to budget 2024 deliberations, including the Aurora Cultural Center's programming and staffing plan.
Okay.
Okay.
Just a quick question. If neither of these two happen, would staff be bringing forward to budget the operating plan anyway?
I'm seeing nods yes, but yeah, yes, they would.
Regardless of the resolution that we brought forward that was approved at GC. Through you, Mr. Mayor.
Swear, I think. Oh, Ms. McDougall.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I think if I understand you correctly, Councillor, you're just asking, regardless of these motions, the staff's intent would be to be bringing an operating plan before budget discussions. I see
Yes.
a lot. And so my answer to that would be our goal. Absolutely. The intent is to have the cultural center and staffing plan in there. I appreciate the extra direction to ensure it is in there. We would work towards it. It's nice to see that in the motion. The cultural center knows that we're looking for that and council is looking for that.
Councilor?
That's what I suspected, regardless of what we move forward with the recommendations out of GC, staff is going to bring forward at budget a operating plan, which makes sense. The only, I guess, difference is that with the last clause is that some of that work, meaning the agreements with our partners, needs to be done and approved, at least brought before council before we discuss it at budget. Is that the intent through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Gilliland?
Councillor?
Okay, thank you. The intent that I had in mind is that these agreements would be made and we would have a full understanding of what the expectations were, so that when we are in budget, we understand what the rules of engagement are. Because right now we don't really know what they are. And by this direction, it kind of solidifies that council is expecting to have this information before we go into budget.
Councillor Gallo?
Okay, thank you. I guess it's the same as maybe not approved before budget, but at least a full understanding of it. I don't see a business plan, kind of a justification for, regardless of the agreements with our cultural partners, the budget going forward is exclusive of that. And the what was brought before GC didn't have anything to do with the partners. And we still don't have a proper business plan, in my view, for that part of it. I'm happy to see agreements with our cultural partners to be done before we discuss it at budget. But there's nothing in this motion or any direction to staff to do a fulsome business plan to justify that additional funds that are being requested before budget. I don't see that anywhere. Am I understanding that correctly?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. I think for staff and in fairness, I think our interpretation of operating plan is by way of business plan. It's interchangeable in our mind. The operating plan requires business decisions and directions regarding justification for staff requests of demonstrating the revenue expectations, the expenditures. So an operating plan to us is in effect a business plan. So it's interchangeable in our opinion. But if council wishes to change the language, that's fine. That's what we would be bringing back to council.
Councillor?
It doesn't matter what you call it, as long as I get it. But as I understand it, the motion that's on the floor right now, it's not asking to have that before budget. It's asking to have that at budget. Is that correct?
No. Ms. McDougall?
Through Mr. Mayor, I believe it says prior to budget 24 deliberations, the operating plan would come before council. So we would be looking to bring this to council September, October timeframe.
Councillor?
Prior to budget.
Perfect. That's all I want.
Okay. Any other comments, questions? Call a vote on the amendment. Councillor Weese, yes. Carries. Back to the main motion as amended. No further discussion. Councillor Gilliland, you had something to add?
Oh, I just wanted to kind of, if I may, can I make some comments? Is that okay?
Sure.
Thank you. I just wanted to kind of make some comments on the fact I'm glad, thank you for approving those amendments. And I fully expect that staff will come back with some sort of outlook with a business plan. That was some conversation that I had, and I had concerns as well. And I really hope that when we do see these numbers, it will give us an outlook beyond 1 year and look at the 1, 2, 3 years. So we have a fulsome understanding of what those rules of engagement are and planning for the future for the success of the Aurora Town Square moving forward. So that's my genuine intent. And I want to thank all my council members as well for the healthy discussion around the council table last week that I saw. All valid points, all valid points. And it's going to be an interesting budget this year. So we're all going to have to have our eyes and ears open on, what's being presented and what those business cases are. So I look forward to this report coming to council prior.
You, Councillor Gallo?
Thank you. I just can't see the amended motion. Is there any way of putting that on the screen so I can see it before I vote?
There it is.
Thank you.
Problem is, so Councillor, when it's that big, we can't hear you. Now we can hear you. And can you see it as well? I know it's small, but you can see it, and now we can hear you if you speak.
I can see it. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. There's no other comments, questions. Call the vote. That carries. Next, we have 8.1.6. Councillor Thompson, you pulled this one. This is the Barbarians proposal for Shepherd's Bush. Move as is. Seconder. Councillor Kim. Comments, questions? You just pulled it for the vote. Call the vote. That carries. 8.1.7 Modernized Property Standards Bylaw. Councillor Gilliland, you pulled this one. Did you want to move the recommendation?
Yes, please.
Thank you. Seconder. Councillor Gardner. Councillor Gilliland, floor is yours.
Thank you. First, I just want to thank Alex, Ray, and Patricia and their team for all the hard work they put into this new property standards bylaw. I know it's a beast, and I know you've had a lot of people waiting with bated breath for this to come to council. I wish I was there in person for this, because this is a huge deal. We're making very significant changes since 1999, and it's really going to shape the future of Aurora and how we conduct our property standards bylaw moving forward. So I do appreciate all the changes that you have presented. I just have a couple questions, if I may, and through you, Mr. Mayor, to if Mr. Ray is online. I did think I asked you offline. I can't recall if there was an answer specifically, and I apologize. I haven't had a chance to dig into the actual large draft version, but I wanted to know if there was some sort of measure or bylaw that addressed retaining walls that were on were on property that did have something to do with town easements, what that meant if it was shouldering, a private residential property, how that is being conducted. I know that there was some gray areas in there, and there were some residents that were kind of waiting for this new revised bylaw to come out to see if there is any teeth there to help some residents that are in this situation right now. And I know we kind of left it in the wings while I was away, and I was hoping maybe you could address that today.
Right?
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. So the provisions that are contained in the draft bylaw contain provisions that will address retaining walls that do not fit under the criteria of the Building Code Act. So there's existing walls that could meet that criteria. This would be for walls other than that. In terms of properties that have easements on them or restrictive covenants, staff would review the easements and the restrictive covenants on a case-by-case basis to determine the applicability of what the specifics are. And in those cases, if it was deemed that the provisions of the bylaw fit and that there were no factors such as the easement or the covenant, depending on what it is, that would prohibit the applicability of the bylaw, then it would be applied as such.
Councillor?
Thank you. A very high level answer. I appreciate that. I'm going to get right to the chase on this through Mr. Mayor to Mr. Ray, and maybe you can or cannot answer this. Would this new revision help the situation on several residents on Divins Drive?
Right.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Specifically, I truthfully don't have the answer to that question at this time. I'd have to take a wholesome dive into what those easements are specifically. There are some easements in some cases that are below ground for below ground infrastructure, and there are some that are impacted for above. So it would be appropriate for me to review and take a wholesome look at the approach before confirming the applicability in that specific case.
Councillor?
Thank you. I appreciate that. Also, just one question. I know there was a lot of talk about the exterior lighting, and I do appreciate some of the questions around the council table on that. There was some comments about the grandfathering and giving till 2030. And I appreciate that people do need some time in order to comply to that. However, I just kind of want to confirm if there was, say, a complaint or a concern with some exterior lighting that exceeded, say it was very bright, that this new bylaw would give bylaw the authority to be able to issue an order to install whatever those things that you would put on, like deflectors on these lights until 2030. Could you just confirm that that would allow or trigger that action to be able to be done?
Right.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, that the new bylaw would allow for the implementation of deflectors. There's also a provision in the bylaw, I believe it's under section 6, that deals with nuisances. And that requires exterior lighting not to shine brighter than 20 lux, which is a measurement of light. So in addition to any lights that are shining brightly into a neighboring property, we would also require that the brightness of the light be brought down to 20 lux to comply with the provisions of the bylaw.
Councillor?
Thank you. And just out of curiosity, what about in situations to where somebody will install exterior lighting around the under eaves of their trough, I guess they call it this, on the soffit, and they decide they want a light every 3 feet all the way around. And while the light is deflecting down, they may have 30 of these lights shining down, and it's lit up like the Taj Mahal. Now, while they're not directing light specifically at someone's home, it's going down, but yet it's still so bright that it causes a lot of light pollution. Is that scenario addressed? I know that there has been some concerns about a lot of lighting that's being added that's, I guess you could say, for lack of a better term, gone over the top a little bit, or a little bit, I don't know, passionate about their lighting. I just want to know if this also helps address some of those concerns that I know I've heard from some residents over the years.
Mr. Ray?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So going back to the nuisance section, the brightness in the 20 lux would definitely address that provision. That concern. The measurement is taken encompassing all of the lights. So it would be taken at ground level. And essentially it could not exceed 20 lux from the soffit of the home to the ground level. So for comparison, I guess 20 lux would be a quarter less bright than your traditional hallway in, say, an apartment building. It's a very minimal level of light. It's intended to just provide enough light that there's an element of security around residential or commercial or industrial properties, but not allowing the property to be overlit.
Councillor, and you have 10 seconds left, Councillor.
Yep. No, that's great. That's all I wanted to know. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor Gardner?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I had that concern last week and ended up voting against the bylaw at that time. But after a long conversation with Mr. Ray, I'm quite sure that this bylaw is going to help many residents who are having this issue. And I second it this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Weese?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Ray, you just mentioned commercial properties, and I've had a number of residents who have complained about ambient light from commercial places along Yonge Street in particular, and I'm wondering if this bylaw has anything in it that can help us with those types of lighting that's going from a commercial environment into a residential area.
Mr. Ray?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So in those situations, any new lights that are installed would be required to be downward facing. So they would comply with what's commonly referred to as a dark sky provision. So it would eliminate light emitting upwards. And that is what Councillor Gilliland was speaking to the timeline of 2030 for anything existing. So for anything existing, we would get into addressing with deflectors to minimize the deflection of that light, polluting from a commercial property into a residential property that may be above a commercial property or adjacent. That's how we would essentially address that.
Councillor?
Thank you.
Do you have any other comments or questions? Call a vote. That carries. Next, 9.1, request for a parking bylaw amendment, Benville Crescent update. The recommendations that report number PDS 23-075 be received, and 2, that a bylaw to amend parking bylaw number 4574-04 T be enacted to prohibit parking at any time on both sides of Benville Crescent from Bayview Avenue to house number 86/87. Someone like to move that recommendation? Seeing none. So how about if I just get someone to move to receive at this point? Councillor Thompson, thank you. Just to get it on the floor, Councillor Kim, thank you. Any comments or questions? Councillor Thompson, go ahead.
Thank you. I actually, my preference is to move the original staff recommendation back from 2021, which had asked that parking be restricted just to the one side of the street and still allow it on the other. I've had further conversations with staff regarding this issue, as well as the fact that if council remembers, we had delegates here as well. And so the issue extends beyond just the residents of Benville Crescent. There are people that utilize the trailhead there and, looking for access as well. And so I'm trying to find a compromise at this point in time so that if we go back to the 2021 report where it talked about restricting parking just to the north side and still allow it on the other side of the street, it at least addresses the issue for now. But then what I'd also like to do is put forward an amendment, and I've spoken to staff as well. This playground is scheduled for repair and replacement in 2025. The hope would be is that we could move the timeline up a year and add it to the 2024 capital budget discussions. And perhaps at that time, take a look at either putting a lay-by or some sort of small parking area to be able to address that concern that, residents outside of the immediate area, they still want to have access to that trailhead. And so at least that way they'd have an area by which they can park as well. And so if there's no opposition, I'd like to put the original recommendation from 2021 on the floor and then also put forward that amendment. Happy to do it now, or unless there's other comments from those around the table, I can wait. It's up to you, Chair.
One hand up. I'll come back to you, Councillor Thompson.
That's fine.
I'll take comments at this point from everybody, and then I'll come back for an amendment.
Yep.
Councillor Gilliland.
Thank you very much. I appreciate Councillor Thompson's comments, and I'm very well aware of the original motion that was on the floor, and not the motion, the report back in, I believe it was 2021 or 2020. And, some of the staff's comments back then were that the concerns were really based on garbage, nuisance, and obviously it was during COVID and it was very busy. I understand there was also delegates that had come to the traffic advisory committee and also spoke there as well. And while I think, a compromise is always lovely, and I do like the idea of the, considering a park revision and, looking at a lay-by, personally at this time, I would support the community advisory, the traffic advisory committee comments in the report that defer the committee's recommendation, that defers the recommendations to, if I had the language in front of me, that would be great. I don't have that report, but I believe it said to defer it to a parking traffic study, because I know that's something that we are intending on doing, and I believe this is something that is coming in 2024. And that would be my recommendation, is to defer any restrictions until a town-wide traffic parking study is done. I still believe this is a public trail, public access, and it's a public road. And at this point in time, I think that some of those steps should be taken first. And then if we see that there's, a need to restrict or add that lay-by, I think they're all great ideas, but my preference would be to defer until a town-wide traffic study was done. I don't know if Mr. Gallo or Councillor Gallo would like to make any comments. I never had a conversation with you about it, but I understand that you were on the traffic advisory committee, and perhaps maybe you could share some insight on those discussions that had occurred in there.
Councillor,
Mr. Mayor.
I'll come back to you after, as I mentioned, I'll get everyone's comments. Councillor Gallo's got his hand up. So Councillor Gallo, go ahead.
Thank you. Just some insight from at least what I recall. The committee's general feeling was that not only in this case, but in all cases, big or small, that come before the town in terms of this type of thing, traffic calming and all of it, to have a more global approach to it. Specifically here, it was more to have a global approach to it as opposed to piecemeal and doing these things as they come. But I don't think the committee was opposed to parking on one side of the street. I don't remember whether it was the north or the south side. Some others may recall whatever the staff report was. But that's my sense from the committee is we should be dealing with these globally, but they're not necessarily against having parking on one side of the road in this case.
Thank you, Councilor Gilliland. Just so everyone's, I've seen the original one from that Councilor Thompson mentioned. It's northeast side that the parking would be prohibited. Any other comments or questions at this time? Otherwise, I'm going to go back to Councilor Thompson first for his amendments first, since I promised I'd go back to him first. Councilor Thompson?
Thank you. And I'm okay if we also want to incorporate the recommendations from the Trails and Active Transportation Committee about, continuing to revisit this through a more broader strategy. But right now, you can't park on either side of the street. And it's been that way for a couple of years. We have these temporary signs erected. And so I'd like to see us make some progress tonight and make a recommendation, even if we're going to go revisit it either through the budget process or when the broader strategy is presented. But I just don't want to see it continue to be a temporary no parking on both sides of the streets and it continue on for another year. It's been 2 years. I'd like to see us make at least these, that compromise tonight where we restricted on the one side, because it does say in the report that having parking on both sides, which is legally allowed now, does create concerns both from a safety as well as a traffic flow perspective. So a decision needs to be made. While the resident poll that was done, it didn't have as many responses as we may have wanted, indicated their preference was to maintain no parking. I think that in this case, I fall back on town policies and town expertise where they did recommend originally just block off the north side, allow parking on the other side, and then let's take a broader look through the capital project process. And when the broader strategy comes, be able to find the proper solution. But in the interim, the motion I'd like to put forward is that as per the 2021 report, that a bylaw to amend parking law bylaw number 457 be enacted to prohibit parking at any time on the northeast side of Benville Crescent from Bayview Avenue to a 0.9 meters north of the end of the curb, return adjacent to 87 Benville Crescent. Again, that was the original recommendation way back in 2021. And then the second amendment would be that the repair and replacement of this park, which was originally scheduled for 2025, be moved up to the 2024 capital budget discussions.
Did you get that? Got both. Yes, we're going to
And
both at the same time.
If council would like to split them and vote on them independently, I'm fine with that. I'm just putting them both out.
So what I'll do, councillors, I'll put both amendments up on the floor. See if I can get a seconder. We'll put them both up on the floor. And yes, if anyone wants to split the vote on that, we can do that as well.
Sure.
Someone want to second that? Councillor Gardner, thank you.
And I'll just speak briefly to the second one. I did have some conversation with Ms. Teamcamp. She's provided some preliminary thoughts around it. I'm happy to share with council after the fact if they want. But again, I'm just trying to move it to 24 at that time. We'll see all of the priorities. Council may say, no, let's keep it in 2025, but at least it provides an opportunity to have this conversation by moving it up. I think the lay-by might be the easiest solution, but we'll have that conversation in the fall.
Any comments or questions on the amendment? Councillor Gilliland.
Thank you. Again, I don't want to sound like a broken record here. I appreciate the compromise. Certainly my view was not to continue on with the restrictions. In fact, I've been asking planning to remove these restrictions because in my opinion, they shouldn't be there. They were not approved by council to be there. They shouldn't have been there to begin with, and they shouldn't remain there. And it really is something that has bothered me that it has remained for the last couple of years. So what I was simply suggesting was that they would be removed until an actual townwide parking study was done, which is on the 2024 budget already. And once we approve a no parking on north side, it's very difficult to remove that and reverse that. And I just want us to be very careful here about what we're doing, because we're really basing this on 12 respondents, and 4 of the 12 didn't want any parking restrictions on either side. Only 1 thought this was a compromise, and then the other 7 were wanting it on both sides. Now, I understand that 7 is more than 4, but it is not a lot of people when you were considering the fact that this is a public park on a public street with a public trail. Very small percentage of people, and I feel for the people that are on that corner. I'm not discrediting how they feel and where they're at. I just feel that we're basing this compromise on a very, very small percentage. And the fact that we have a park that we're going to make a big investment in, we're asking to make a big investment in 2024 capital budget and moving forward, is for the town. It's not for Benville Crescent, it's for the town. And so I am supportive of the second clause. However, I am not supportive of restricting any parking at this time on that crescent. I want to also stress that within an email that was sent to us by the then director, David Waters, said it is important to note that the petition was completed in May 2021 during the lockdown due to COVID. Since then, the province has entered into steps 3 of the reopening plan. It is my understanding the preliminary reason for the petition on street parking generation from the parking visitor trail is no longer an issue. Therefore, the staff are confident that undertaking an updated survey can accurately capture the views of the residents living on Benville Crescent. Now, I didn't hear anything about the fact that there was the amount of noise and nuisance and garbage, which were also stated in the email. Is also important to note that the justifications provided to the residents' petition were generally unrelated to traffic engineering, example, litter, disturbance of peaceful neighborhood, etc. And I understand that operations have successfully addressed the garbage issue, and the number of visitors external to the neighborhood has significantly diminished. So just basing the fact of where we were, and I know we've had this conversation before about engaging with community back then when we are in COVID, and here we are today. I just want to really caution when we are making decisions to making parking restrictions on such a very small percentage of something that's supposed to service a lot more people in the town. So in my opinion, I would rather wait for a traffic-wide study to determine this is something that we need. But yes, I am in favor of the second clause of this motion. That would be what I would prefer.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions to the amendment? And then I'll go back to Councillor Thompson for a second.
Thank you. Perhaps I wasn't clear enough, so I'll try and clarify my point of view. Is that the amendment I'm putting forward is not based on the survey whatsoever. It is pre-survey. It is the staff recommendation based on their analysis of the street. It is again repeated on page 5 of tonight's report that says that under the existing parking allowance condition, whereby it is permitted on both sides, unimpeded two-way traffic flow cannot be achieved based on the current pavement width. Therefore, it is their recommendation that the parking not be allowed on both sides. Now, that's where we went down the road of a survey, and you can certainly analyze the survey in terms of the amount of people that responded and their responses. But when I asked staff, when I asked Mr. Ramuno and I asked Mr. Batt what their professional recommendation was, it was as per the 2021 report to just restrict it to the north side. So through you, Mr. Chair, to Mr. Ramuno, am I being accurate? Is it staff's recommendation originally that parking just be restricted on the north side as per the amendment?
Mr. Ramuno?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that's correct, Councillor Thompson.
Councillor?
Thank you. So I just want to be clear. It has nothing to do with the survey. I'm going back to what the staff in their professional opinion feel is the best suited for there. Granted, there still may be some challenges, and that's why I wanted to include that second piece so we can revisit this at the capital discussions in 2024 when we talk about replacement and or repair to that park to see if we can improve access to the trailhead. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? I'm going to go to Councillor Weese for the first time. Councillor Weese?
Just one quick, we're talking about the parking strategy. Do we have any idea how long that parking strategy is going to take and how this is essentially going to be resolved? We're talking about it in the 2024, and how long does that type of thing stay? Through you to Mr. Ramino, I suppose.
Ramino, can we expect it in the 2024 budget?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, it's part of the 2024 budget. Timing wise, I think it's going to take a number of months to complete. We'd have to retain consultants, so we're probably looking towards the end of 2024 to have the results of that study.
Okay, thanks.
Councillor? Okay. Anybody else for the first time to the amendment? Councillor Gilliland, second time.
Thank you very much. Sorry, I just I thought through Mr. Mayor to Mr. Ramino. I know you weren't here at the time, and I had some conversations with Director David Waters and Michael back then, and I recall having the conversation about, you know, if they were to restrict parking, they would recommend it just on the north side. But I also recollect having the conversation that, you know, wasn't something that they felt that was necessary for traffic safety standards in order to have a functional road. There was nothing there that really was scathing or standing out that would suggest that this was needed. So that was kind of part of why I took my position, although I wanted to go through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Ramino, if you would be able to share your point of view on that assertion that I was led to believe back then.
Mr. Ramino?
Mr. Mayor, just based on my discussion with our staff, our traffic analyst, and the report from September 2021, where they spell out the rationale for agreeing to allow parking only on one side, it really comes down to the pavement width. And by allowing parking on both sides, the remaining sort of travel way of the pavement is less than 6 meters. So that is an issue with respect to allowing a two-way flow of traffic. So the recommendation from staff back in September 2021 was to allow parking only on the south side of that Benville and Bayview leg, and restrict the parking on that north side.
Councillor?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor and Mr. Ramino, just as a, and I'm not trying to fight this in the sense that I understand you guys are doing your job, but here's a street that we have built. So are you suggesting, like, if we did not restrict parking on either side, that this road would not be in compliance to our standards?
Mr. Ramino?
Mr. Mayor, yeah, based on the traffic standards and the width, allowing the parking on both sides would allow for less than a 6 meter travel way on the pavement width. That's correct.
Councillor?
Okay, so if we allowed parking on both sides, you're saying that it would restrict the width of the directional traffic that would impede traffic flow in a way that does not comply with their standards. Is that what you're suggesting?
Mr. Ramino?
Yeah, through Mr. Mayor, yes, and staff did spell it out in the report. Yes.
Councillor?
Okay, this is not how I was, did not get that impression when I had spoken to the Director Waters and Michael Batt prior. It's just taking me off guard. I'm certain that maybe perhaps we have many streets in Aurora where we have parking on both sides, where we're going to face the exact same problem. So through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Ramino, are there many streets in Aurora that would probably not comply with the current parking on both sides?
Mr. Ramino, I would assume they're older streets if we do have any.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, I can't answer that at this point.
Councillor?
Thank you. Okay, I guess what I'm getting at again is just more or less that the traffic study, the parking study. Is this something that's necessary? I like the lay-by idea. I just don't necessarily want, if there's a lay-by, then we don't necessarily need the restriction of parking. So again, here we are going forward with restricting parking on one side before we even know if we have this lay-by and it's refreshed, which is a great idea, which could solve that problem. And does that mean that we put this lay-by and remove these parking signs, no parking signs after the fact? I just feel like we're going backwards. And to me, it's like remove those no parking signs that we have, do that traffic study. Let's look at the capital budget for this park and then see if there's an issue there that we need to resolve. I just feel like we're compromising in a way that I still feel that there isn't any consensus on the street on, because right now there's only one person on the street. If we are going by that poll, which I know some people have said that they're not, but I just don't know if this is solving the problem. And I just feel like this is a public park, public trailhead for the greater community, and not for 7 people in Aurora. And I understand the concerns, but that was not the primary concern was the garbage and the nuisance and the amount of people coming because of COVID. This was not the reason why people were complaining, from my understanding. And we could have this conversation all day long about many streets in Aurora with 2 cars parked on either side that pose problems with the width. So while I appreciate what's being presented by Councillor Thompson, and I understand that, I still would not be in favor in the first clause, and I would be definitely in favor in the second clause, and I will leave it at that.
Thank you. Councillor Gallo, first time to the amendment, please.
Thank you. Through you to staff. If this was to pass, how quickly can we remove the current signs and install the no parking sign on the north side?
Mr. Romano, how quickly can it be done if it gets passed?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, within a day or two, because the temporary no parking signs are already there. So we would just remove the one on the south side.
Councillor, day or two?
Okay, thank you. Let's just get it done.
Okay. Nothing else to the amendment? Call the vote on the. Oh, Councillor, did you want it split? Gilliland, did you want it split? Yep. Okay, so I'm going to split them. So we're going to do the first part of the amendment first. Then we'll do the second one. So we're going to do 2 votes. Just going to get it on the screen for everyone. The first one is essentially going to be to remove the restrictions on the south side and continue with parking restrictions on the north side. The original recommendation. So that's the first amendment. Okay. Everyone know what we're voting on this one? Yep. All right. Call a vote. Councillor Kim. That carries. Second amendment. And this one's that the refreshed plan for the Benville Crescent Park be included in the 2024 capital budget discussions for consideration of approval. Okay. Call the vote. That carries. Back to the main motion as amended. If there are no further comments to the main motion as amended, I'll call the vote. Call the vote.
Wait, cannot not be separated.
You want them separated
Sorry.
again?
I want that clause separated. just that one. Thank you.
So I got to receive, right? So one's a receive. So we're gonna do 1 and 2 together. No, 1 and 3 together and 2 on its own. Okay, everyone. So
Okay.
1 is to receive, and 3 is for the 2024 budget considerations. I'll get it up on the screen. All right. I'll call a vote. Councillor Kim? Councillor Kim? Did you vote? Did you? Oh, Councillor Thompson? You did? Councillor Thompson's yes. That carries. And the second one, which is the separate vote. So wait till I get it up on the screen and I'll call the vote. This one over here did. There we are. All right. Same as when we did the amendment. Call the vote. And that carries. Okay. So we're going to move to motions. We have 3 of them. First one, 10.1, Councillor Weese, Councillor Gilliland regarding air supported courts, Dome and Aurora. Councillor Weese, I'm assuming you want to move it as is. Thank you. And Councillor Gilliland, I'm assuming you want to second it. Yes, thank you. Councillor Weese, floor is yours.
Rather than going through the lengthy recitals, let me just give a summary of this that should take half the time. I want to thank Councillor Gilliland for joining me on this. And this motion before us tonight is authored by us both, and it sprang from the recent discussions around the SARC renovation. Of course, that was a single gymnasium to be scheduled and used largely for recreation space needed by community services to fulfill activities and requirements of a growing population. It was demonstrated much needed and therefore approved by council last week. This addition, however, has not met the needs of the Parks and Recreation Master Plan with respect to the lack of indoor court space. And these are identified in the motion recitals also. It's clear from the delegation tonight, and I want to thank both Jason and Bruce and Bruce's email for because they're both large respected organizations in this community. And it's clear that even the original focus group discussions about the SARC gym for that facility would not meet the needs of the sporting community. However, it meets the recreational needs well. So this motion tonight is to explore the possibility that has arisen out of new developments in air support structures that have made them more efficient, safer, more reliable, where they're only once considered useful for turf and field training and competition. They're now being used for indoor facilities used because of their reliability and their utility. This motion is for town staff to consider this type of structure as a solution for our lack of indoor courts as we move into a new Parks and Recreation Master Plan and plan for the future needs of our community. We need more courts now, and the future clearly states that it is, and it's irrefutable. The technology and engineering for air support structure for courts activity is solid and it's reliable. What remains is the feasibility for this type of facility to be reviewed by our town staff in terms of land required for construction, either purchased or presently owned, and the opportunity to explore public-public or public-private partnerships, as was done in the early years of the existing sports dome, so capital and operating expenses can be managed efficiently. I've done some homework on this and in the adjacent Northern Six community. In one of them, a 50,000 square foot courts dome with clubhouse and amenity space that houses 5 full-size basketball courts and allowing 10 full-size volleyball courts with additional pickleball dedicated space is possible for less than $8 million. That may not last forever, but that's what the numbers are now. This would be sufficient for the present and the future needs for our indoor space and would enable numerous sports to use this venue, not only for training and competition and regular league play, but for sport tourism as well, as our delegate suggested. So this motion also asks for this to be done in a timely manner so that a decision is made and included in the 2024, or if needed, the 2025 budget. So I look forward to hearing more about this and input from my colleagues here, but I encourage the passage of this motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. Certainly supportive of the motion, and I would agree that there's both a present and future need for it. I like the idea of exploring the various initiatives, be it public-private, looking at the air dorm structures and some of the innovations around that as well. And so I look forward for staff and their report coming back, and then moving forward in a reasonable time frame, as you mentioned. I'd like to see if we're going to do this, get this done sooner rather than later.
Any other comments or questions? Councillor Garner.
Thank you. I have concern about staff be directed to include. Is Councillor Weese, you wanted to keep that wording?
Councillor Weese.
And number 5, is that what you're talking about? Number 5? Be it further resolved that town staff be directed to consider funds in 2024, including funds in 2024 and 25 as part of the 2024 budget and 10-year capital plan. So I think the nuance there is that the motion isn't to direct them to do that necessarily. It's to consider including funds in the 2024-2025. So we don't want to give the insinuation that it must come back and be done. It's that we want it to be considered by staff because it is an exploration.
Councillor Gardner.
Mayor, thank you very much. And that's what I was hoping for. That's not what the motion says, though.
Councillor
Look
Weese,
at this.
You just turned on your mic.
Be it further resolved that town staff be directed to consider including funds in the 2024 and 2025 budget and the 10-year capital plan. Just the word of consider instead of include. I'm okay with that.
No, I know, but I agree with the clerk. Staff aren't considering it. It'd be for council's consideration. Staff don't consider it. I see where you guys are all going with this, so I'm trying to work. I'll try to work with the clerk here on the language. How about you do it the opposite? The staff be directed to include funds in the 2024 and 2025 for council's consideration as part of the 2024 budget. How's that? Does that
Agreed.
work?
Yep.
That work?
Thank you.
Councillor Gilliland, you seconded that. You're fine with that? Okay. I'll leave that as a friendly. You got that, Mr. Clerk? Okay. Councillor Gardner, you still have the floor.
Thank you. I'm done.
You're done. Thank you. Councillor Kim.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just for clarification, in terms of funds from 24 and 25, are we talking about funds from operating budget to fund potential external consultant fees, planning fees, like we're talking about operating funds.
Actually, I'll go with Ms. Rainey Van Kessel.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So this would be a capital project because it's an investment in a new facility. So even any of the consulting work that would go into the design would be part of that capital project.
Councillor?
Okay. Okay.
Any other comments or questions? Councillor Gilliland?
Thank you very much. Just want to say thank you, Ron, for working together towards this and many conversations I know we've had about increasing the courts and sports facilities in our town. And it's definitely a very innovative idea that we can offer to give more opportunity for growing sports. And one of the things that I just wanted to kind of shine a light on as well is it does go in line with our sports strategy, tourism strategy, and increasing that excitement about coming to Aurora and hosting some of these tournaments, whether they're high level or fun or house league or so forth, or even for accessibility. There's just a lot more opportunity there. And I believe that, you know, hopefully through this exploration, we'll be able to find some sort of solution to be able to offer this much growing need in our community. So I'm grateful for the opportunity to be a part of this. And thank you for all the kind comments around council tonight.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Call a vote. That carries. 10.2, Councillor Thompson, Parkland acquisition motion. Would you like to move as is? Thank you. So I have a seconder. Councillor Gardner. Councillor Thompson, floor is yours.
Thank you. I won't read the motion itself. I think that, you know, with the council's adoption of the latest Parks and Rec master plan, we all recognize the shortfall we have when it comes to playground. This just highlights some of the information that came out of that master report, whereby if you look at some of the different graphs and studies, it certainly shows that, you know, the OPA 34 secondary plan area, which is essentially Yonge Street South, is one of the most underserviced areas in town. And there has been a number of developments over the years in that area. And because a lot of the developments were smaller in scale, the decision was made to take cash in lieu as opposed to being parkland. And so I'm just asking staff to simply come back with a little bit of a report to they identify and investigate perhaps some possibilities and go from there in terms of what council may or may not want to do. But I think it's been a long time since we've taken a look at that area of what may or may not be feasible. And it would be good to update the information and bring it to council's attention so that we can look at possibly strategies to address the shortfalls in that area.
Yeah. Any other comments, questions? Seeing none, call the vote. I thought she was reaching for it. That's why. That's what I. That's why I was waiting. That was a longer pause. That carries. Next, 10.3, this motion eliminating minimum parking requirements for new residential developments. Someone like to move that? Councillor Gardner, thank you. Anyone second? Councillor Gilliland, thank you. I'll start. I mean, ultimately, anyone that remembers the affordability housing task force, I'd say one of their top 3 recommendations was for municipalities to eliminate minimum parking requirements to help with affordability. But ultimately, to me, it's not just about affordability. I think that when you look at this, it does help with some of our town priorities. You know, we talk about addressing climate emergency. improving housing affordability and encouraging alternative forms of transportation and mobility. And I think that this and implementing this would help us achieve some of that, or at least move down the path where we start to work towards what we like to talk about all the time, is creating a complete community within our town. Now, this motion was originally looking at a bigger, wider area, and that's why I pulled it, just to make the necessary changes. I felt that it would be good for us to look at the MTSA first. And if we were to implement it, look at implementing it in that area, as that is going to be one of our main focuses as far as from a transportation perspective. And I think that this is a great area for us to start this and implement this. But I also do believe that, when we're given the opportunity to have tools that we can use to continue to uphold our OP, I think it's a great way to look at doing that. And for me, one of the things that I would like to see come back in this report, it's not specifically written into the motion, but the conversations that I have had with Mr. Ramuno, and I just want all of you to know some of the things that I would like to see in there is for us to move forward with this, is that for an exemption to be given to any development in the MTSA, that exemption would only kick in if they meet our OP. So essentially, we're using it as a tool to say that if you meet our OP, if you meet our height, our density within that area that we've envisioned for our community, then we're willing to give you that exemption in the parking requirements. So the benefit for us as a town is that we're going to make sure that the developments are in keeping with the way we want to see our community built, and ensuring that also that there's some housing units for those that don't necessarily have a car or have alternate modes of transportation, and give them the opportunities to be able to buy property without having to pay the excessive charge that comes along with having parking for every single unit. So that's part of it. Like I said, this is just for staff to develop that report and bylaw and come back to us. And so I'm looking forward to seeing that report, and for us to possibly moving forward with enacting an exemption for minimum parking requirements. Councillor Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I agree with this. And I remember when I was asking the consultant how we were going to get affordable housing in the MTSA, which you're supposed to be affordable housing by transit, he didn't really know, or he didn't give me an answer. So I think by reducing the parking standard, of course, parking costs money, it takes land. So this might make that area more attractive. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. I certainly support the concept, and will be interested to see the report come back. As you mentioned, though, I think the one concern I have is that, if you're going to give the developer an exemption or, reduce the standard for them, then I want to see the benefit go to either the community or to the people that are going to be buying those units. My concern is that you reduce the standard, and then all of a sudden, as we've seen in some cases, the density or the lot coverage increases significantly, and it's the developer that's benefiting. In this case, to me, the intent is to address some of those concerns. And so by doing this, the benefit needs to either go to the community or the people that are going to be buying these units. And so you touched on it in your comments, Mr. Mayor, and so that's fine. I don't see any need to amend the motions, but certainly when that report comes back, I want to see those tools and those mechanisms that you speak of to ensure that by doing this, it's not only addressing the needs as we've identified, but the fact that at the end of the day, the benefits got to go to the people that are buying the units and or the community.
Thank you. Councillor Weese.
Thank you. And I agree with most of the comments around the table thus far. And it's important to know that this is just removing the minimum parking requirements. It's not demanding that there's no parking. And that's what has happened, particularly around the MTSAs, the concern of residents adjacent to these larger developments. They're always concerned about parking and people not having enough parking and leaking out into the community. So I hope when the staff report comes back that there are provisions there about how we're going to manage this. If there is a minimum parking standard, the developer accepts that and puts a 0.25 or whatever number they choose to put in there. and that we understand the consequences that may occur in particularly the town park area that is under a lot of pressure with town square already, and what may happen if it's successful the way we encourage it to be. There may be a lot of other parking problems. So we have to look at this as a double-edged sword, but I'm certainly on side with this. And the last thing is, of course, having a minimum parking in these developments is really related to how people move around. And I hope that with all of the things that are happening in that area, that we're going to be talking a little bit more with York Region and Viva Service so that we have better than 1 hour service around there so that people can actually take advantage of not having a car and can get around the community. And there should be some provision in there for active transportation and just continuing with that message that happens about active transportation. So I'm for this.
Thank you. Councillor Gilliland.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the revisions to the motion that was more scaled down to really highlight the MTSA. I'm in favor of the motion that's put before us in respect to the reduced minimum standards. I think it's a great way to encourage people who are purchasing to give them choice, number one, but also to encourage that active transportation that I think that we are trying so hard to change behaviorally. And by putting it in the MTSA as a place to start makes sense because the infrastructure is intended to be there to service that need. And at the same time, hopefully we are targeting more affordable housing area with that density. With that, we did talk about, or you touched on, and Councillor Thompson did as well, about the benefits going back to the community, the people purchasing, and one of them in your motion talks about the auto share and bike share program, which I know that we've had conversations about before, and I think it's a great idea within that complex. That's something that we are asking for, and it certainly does set, I guess, a new tone as to what those benefits could look like and how those programs could work. So I do think it's great. I don't know what you think, Mr. Mayor. It does have language in there. It says in the second clause, within the Go major transit area require auto share and bike share program. And some specific developments might not be conducive to require both in those circumstances. And I certainly wouldn't want them to be beholden to not to be able to negotiate and I didn't know if you were open to at least just changing that language to say require auto share and or bike share, perhaps in a certain scenario that an auto share program only or just bike share only or a hybrid of both would work. And I just want to be able to ensure that we have all options on the table that would really entice and benefit these developers and residents to want to partake in purchasing or renting, whatever that model is, with these benefits.
Thank you, Councillor. I'm fine with that. I'll ask mover and the seconder whether we make it friendly or whether I put an amendment on the floor. Councillor Gardner, you moved it. Are you fine with just saying and or instead of just saying and? It's on.
Thank you. I'm fine with that. The car share to me would be the most pertinent because if we're not allowing any, or we have a really reduced parking standard, I think that the bike share is an add-on and I don't object.
Okay, so and who seconded that again for me? Just clear. Councillor Gilliland, you seconded, so I'm assuming you're okay with the and or. Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll make that we'll make that a friendly amendment. So Councillor Gilliland, you have the floor still yours.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate that, Councillor Gardner. Thank you as well, and thank you, Mayor Mrakas. I do think there's a lot to learn about the auto share and the bike share, and I think this is just one way that on a community benefit in I don't want to call it a pilot, but in an area like this, as we do this exploration, to where we can open some new doors and opportunity to see this kind of active transportation increase, and as well give opportunity to more of this affordable housing and this kind of density that makes sense. Thanks.
Appreciate it. Councillor Gallo?
Thank you. I'm in support of this. I just had just a question on some of the language, mainly in the second clause. The first one is asking for staff to evaluate options on a minimum parking requirements, which I'm good with. The last one is the staff report back with the appropriate actions to implement these directions, including necessary updates to the bylaw. I'm assuming these means the parking requirements or the minimum parking requirements, as well as in the second clause, the auto share and or now bike share programs. If it is referring to these, the second clause is a straight direction, and there's no in the second clause asking for a report back to council. It's basically saying, be it hereby resolved that any new residential development within the MTSA require auto share and or bike share programs. So is the third clause referring to auto share and bike share programs, as well as the evaluating the options of a minimum parking requirements?
Romano, you want to help me out on this one? Councillor, from my opinion, I would say, I mean, as being my motion, I would say that to me, that's an important one that is, to me, that needs to be a requirement, whether it's and or, but one of those need to be in any development that's looking at any type of exemption. Beyond that one requirement, I think some of the conversations around there and some of the suggestions are things that can be implemented through some of the discussion that we had here today, which was, to me, is more appropriate, I guess, under the third clause. But I do get what you're saying as far as the way it's worded.
I'm supportive of it. All I'm saying is I think both of those should be combined in a report from staff, so we understand the impact of them. I think that's what the third clause is saying, and the second clause is already giving direction without asking for a report.
Fair enough, but it would be and I agree with you. I understand that, but I think that it would still come back in the report that comes back to us. It would still be part of that report, because ultimately, until we approve it, once this report comes back and approve a comprehensive zoning bylaw, a new comprehensive zoning bylaw for that number, that nothing would take effect as far as from eliminating any minimum parking requirements. So which would essentially, if we don't approve it, it would make the second direction null and void regardless, right? We would have to approve eliminating minimum parking requirements or an exemption for minimum parking requirements for that second direction, I guess, to kick in. And I got the clerk nodding yes. So if we don't approve the report that comes back to us, then that second clause wouldn't kick in. That second direction wouldn't kick in.
And I'm okay with what you're saying. It's just, it doesn't read that way. And
yeah, and
it's a nuance. And it's fine.
Okay. Any other comments, questions? Okay. Thank you for the support. I think this is a great step for us to take. I'm looking forward to that report, as I mentioned, and I'm looking forward to having conversation on how we move forward to what I believe will be a healthier and more active lifestyle within our MTSA area. I'll call a vote. That carries. Regional report. Someone like to move that? Councillor Thompson, Councillor Kim, any comments, questions on the regional report? Councillor Gardner.
Thank you. There's 30 pages in this report, and I'm not going to make any comments other than it is a very interesting read. And if I would suggest to residents that they might learn a lot of stuff from it and to give it a read. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions? Councillor Thompson.
Just there's one little piece that talked about the potential dissolution of the region Peel and the impact on York region and how, if any, that also would impact, I guess, Aurora or York region. You know, perhaps at some point when more information is available, you could speak to council a little bit about that and give us a little bit more of some insights, and maybe early at this point in time, but it's just it'd be interesting to know that as well.
Absolutely, and I will keep everyone abreast with what's going on. I'd say just at this early stage, the one concern is obviously water, but we're just looking at that right now. We don't know. The province did announce the working group that essentially is going to be working for the dissolving Peel region. I think. Yeah. Former Chief Eric Jolliffe is on that group, but I think as they start going through all that work, we'll start to get some more information of how it's all going to unfold and what those impacts will be, not only to York region but also to ourselves. And we're still waiting for a facilitator to be named in regards to York region being looked at. So I'll keep everyone updated as soon as information comes in. Any other comments, questions on the regional report? Call the vote. That carries. New business. Councillor Weese.
My only new business has to do with some activity that's happened around Town Park that I've been receiving information about. There's been unsafe conditions in the park area, the playground area, that have been noticed. And I want to thank Mrs. Teenkamp for increasing the vigilance in the area. This has to do with some of the mothers and grandmothers in the area identifying needles in the park and being very concerned about that from a safety standpoint. So I brought this to Mrs. Teenkamp's attention, and she asked for greater vigilance with the park staff, and I haven't really heard too much since that work has been done. So I hope that continues for the next little while we take a look at the solutions. But what's come out of it is somewhat like a neighborhood watch, which is a safe park watch. And so we're now working with a number of residents in the parks who use the parks regularly, and working with them on trying to create a citizens action group to stay in touch with what goes on in those parks to try to prevent this in the future. So I'll let people know how that moves forward over the next month or two while we get through this summertime. So I just wanted to bring it to attention in case other people are interested in this, having safe parks and safe playgrounds in their neighborhoods.
Thank you. Councilor Garner, new business.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You said at this council meeting I would have an opportunity to I'll give you the motion. And I thank Mr. Muno, who's not here, for guiding me in the wording, that this is concerning the new provincial legislation that's pending about the provincial policy statement. And the motion I would like to make, that Aurora Council support York Region staff report and comments on the proposed provincial planning statement 2023. That did pass council.
It did.
It did. And I know Mr. Ramuno sent us all a link where we could look at it. It's to me, it's just
1 second, Councilor. Can I get a seconder?
Oops.
I'm going to take the motion because I did promise that I would. Councilor Kim. And I don't believe it's substantive because it's just
we're just
supporting comments from a report. So that's fine. Councilor, go ahead.
That's just it. I would like Aurora, the municipality of Aurora, to support the region's comments.
Mm-hmm. Appreciate it. Okay. Any comments, questions on that? I see. Oh, they're fine. Okay. Call a vote. I think he's. Yeah. That carries. Councillor Gardner, any more new business or is that it? That's it. Thank you. Councillor Thompson, new business? Okay. One sec. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. I'm not sure who best to address it, but some residents around Hartman Public School and the park have reported foxes, more than one, and they seem to be living at Hartman Public School. And so with school out, they're a little unsure of who to contact, but there's some concerns about it attacking pets. And so I don't know if those complaints have been raised to staff yet or not, and whether we've had a chance to look into it. I think there was an email sent last week or today with regards to it as well. And so are staff aware of it? And is there anything we're doing to look into it?
Mr. Serio?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. Staff is aware of it in certain areas. I'm not sure if the area that you're saying they are in is that if that's one of the areas, but I can get that information and find out.
It's essentially Conover and River Ridge Road.
Okay. The one that I have is in a park. So is it a park? So, and our animal control and animal services are doing something about them. And they can't set traps on the property, but they're doing what they can to try to get them away or either not close to any residents.
Yeah.
Councilor.
Thank you. I think what makes this one challenging, perhaps it has cubs. Right. But anyways, Sorry, I've been corrected. Kids. I don't know. But either way, Mr. Serio, I will forward the email that I have, and if I can provide any additional, I'm sure there are maybe other areas and other concerns, but I just know that a number of residents in and around that area are actively talking about it and expressing some concern.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor Kim, new business? No. Councillor Gilliland, new business?
Thank
Go
you. Through Mr. Mayor to Mr. Ramuno. I just sent you an email just to kind of keep you in the loop.
Councillor Gilliland, Mr. Ramuno's not sitting here at this moment.
Okay, is there somebody
Sorry.
else that would be covering him or?
No, he actually got up. We're not 100% sure where he had. Oh, he's had to leave the meeting for personal reasons.
Okay.
So he literally just left maybe about 5 minutes ago. I apologize.
Okay. That's okay. All right. I guess I'll have to follow up offline on that.
Okay.
I guess I don't have any other new business, but I guess I can say that I know that I had another inquiry about a fox. I guess a fox in the area, and Lindsay Clark had sent some information to the residents about coexisting. I think I forwarded to you, Councillor Thompson, and maybe we need to do a bit of an education piece as this behavior continues in all of Aurora. But I just thought I mentioned that, and perhaps it's a different inquiry than that I had responded to. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay. Bylaws. Who would like to move them? You want some separated, Councillor Gardner?
Yes, 13.5. I have some comments.
Okay. Do you want it separated or you just have a comment? Like for voting purposes? Can I move them all together and you make a comment, or did you want me to separate it?
Okay.
Want me to separate it for a vote as well? Okay. 13.5 is going to separate. Everything else together? Can I get someone to move the rest of them? Councillor Weese, seconder. Councillor Thompson. Okay. If there's no comments on those ones or questions, I'll call a vote. That carries. 13.5. Can someone want to move that? 13.5. Councillor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Gilliland. Councillor Gardner, you had a question?
Ramuna, but he's not here, so
Okay, go ahead.
I'm at a disadvantage. But it's the first, in this bylaw, it discusses strata parks. Okay, the bylaw is about conveyance of parkland or the payment in lieu of parkland pursuant to the Planning Act. So something we talk about a lot. There's two things mentioned in here. One is a POPs, which is in our draft official plan, and it's privately owned, publicly accessible spaces or public spaces. Mr. Muno explained to me that that's like it's just got a different name, that we have this now where there'll be an area that the public can sit and relax that's really owned by a private developer. So I'm going to leave that one, but the one that really concerns me, and I would like it to be taken from this report, so that this bylaw, so we can have a report on it. It is the strata parks, and the strata parks are publicly available open spaces, parks in privately owned buildings. And I have no idea how that would work. For example, in a condo, if instead of cash in lieu of parkland, we get a strata park, what does the public just take an elevator and go up to the roof garden in a private development? It's I think it's something that we need to understand a little better before we approve it in a bylaw. So I would like to take out the.
Mr. Sarah, do you want to?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I can give you a general sense of what strata parks are. So
You could give me a general idea, but I think that before council approves it in a bylaw, we should have a report that says what strata parks are.
But council, I was just saying, ultimately, even if we approve this, a strata park wouldn't be approved unless council approves it as part of an application that came forward. So if we didn't want them, we don't have to approve them.
Well, it's
just, I think that the bylaw is just saying that they're allowed, that someone could come forward with it as a suggestion, or it could be discussed. This is as an option, but it doesn't mean that council has to approve it now that it's in the bylaw.
Well, I don't know, and perhaps our lawyer will advise, but if it's in our bylaw that says we allow them, and somebody comes forward and wants to do one, and we say, no, we don't approve. Well, it's in our bylaw that we allow them. So.
Mr. Sarah?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, our bylaw actually is a may. It says that strata parks may be permitted. So it's not.
It says that in the report?
And yeah, it says it in the report, and it says it may be accepted. And I think it's also in the actual clause of the bylaw. In addition, there have been changes as a result of Bill 23.
Yes.
The changes are not in effect yet, but soon developers are going to be able to come and dictate where the parks could be. But at this time, those aren't in effect. And as the mayor has mentioned, it would come in through a development application, and it's up to council whether they would want to approve the strata parks where they're suggested.
Okay.
And I'll add, Councillor, on page 4 of 8 on the specific bylaw 3.4 strata parks and POPs. It says, it's to Mr. Sarah's point, it says that the town in its sole discretion may accept the following.
Okay.
So it's not saying that it shall or it's our sole discretion.
Thank you. That makes you go ahead. I'm sorry.
Mr. Sarah?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I was just going to say yes. And it's also, it could only be accepted at 50%. It wouldn't be the full amount that we accept anyway.
Okay.
Councillor?
At some point, could we have some more information on what a strata park is and how the public would access the park?
Mr. Sarah?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, we can do that. I would recommend it be more through an email as opposed to a report, because I don't think there's enough information for a report, but an email.
How about I've raised it at a council meeting. How about it's just is a memo on one of our agendas?
Yes, we can add it to, could we add it to?
It's because then the public, I mean, I've asked it publicly, so.
Mr. Sarah?
We'll discuss it internally and we'll figure out how to get it best before the public.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. That all? Call vote? That carries. Confirming by law. Would like to move that. Councillor Gardner, seconded. Councillor Weese. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Motion to adjourn. Councillor Kim, Councillor Gardner, all those in favor? Opposed? That carries. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.